all the water in the whole town smelled like rotten eggs. You would think you would taste the difference, but if the government just made stricter regulations, I definitely think it's something that the U.S. needs to step up their game on, and that's really what needs to be done. Hey everyone, welcome back. It is time for another video today. Today's video is going to be one that was recommended to me by one of you guys. It's going to be another Tom Scott video actually on Dasani water in Britain. I don't really know anything about this topic or the history or anything about this video. The only thing I do know is I know Dasani is a water bottle or a water company and they sell bottled water. That's about all I know. So I'm looking forward to learning and seeing what this topic is going to be about. It actually looks like it was only done about a year ago, so pretty recent. With that being said, you guys know what to do. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, turn notification bells, all that good stuff. It really helps out with YouTube and helps support this channel. I also did wanted to say that I'm actually getting really close to hitting 10K. First of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much. I was never expecting this channel to grow this fast, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate all of you, all your comments, all your love and support. You guys have been amazing. And with that being said, I will be trying to do a live Q&A is what I've decided to do for my 10K as a thank you. And that way you guys get to know me a little bit better and I can get to know you guys more too. I say try because I don't have the best internet. So I might crash and I've never gone live yet. So it will be interesting, but I'm willing to try it and I'm gonna give it a shot. Hopefully everything works well and we'll just see how it goes. Anyway, with that being said, we're gonna get right in this video and see why you can't buy this water anymore in the UK. I'm going to assume because it's bad for you.
This is a bottle of Dasani, Coca-Cola's brand of bottled water. It is basically Coke without the syrup. Like most American bottled water, it is tap water that's been purified and then had tiny amounts of minerals deliberately added back into it. Except not quite. This is a British Dasani bottle from 2004, which is the first and last time that you could ever buy Dasani water in the UK. And the story of why it failed here is one of the greatest marketing disaster stories in history. But it wasn't until I started searching through newspapers and TV shows from 2004, that I found that the tale is a little more complicated than I thought. A little more complicated than a lot of the world thought. And it starts years earlier. Through most of the 1980s, bottled water was something expensive that got ordered at fancy restaurants, and it was only...
Okay, yeah, I actually like how he's filming this just out walking on the sidewalk. That's really cool. I did not know that Dasani was owned by Coca-Cola, and I didn't know that's quite how we filtered. I guess it makes sense that's tap water. I thought it was from like a water treatment plant, and they just have their own separate water plant is what I kind of assume water bottle companies do. I didn't realize they just take it right out of a tap.
By the early 90s, that it had started to become a thing that everyday people might want to buy. On Christmas Day, 1992, British sitcom Only Fools and Horses made fun of that trend by having its main character, lovable rogue Del Boy, sell tap water from South London as Peckham Spring bottled water. It's a slow and old-fashioned comedy by today's standards, and the episode is really weirdly paced. You're two-thirds of the way through before anyone actually starts bottling water, but because it was the
A lot of you guys have suggested that I check that out. I still might, I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Christmas Day episode in 1992, back when most British households only had 4 channels of television, that show was watched by more than 20 million people, more than a third of the entire British population. And the final joke of that episode is that the water is contaminated by some chemical barrels that Del Boy dumped in a local pond in the first act. It is, to be fair, a brilliant closing gag, and it's one that stuck in the British psyche. The BBC reran the episode another 5 times in the years after. It'll have been on cable and satellite channels many more times than that. I would guess that by 2004, when Dasani launched, about half of the country, maybe more, could understand Peckham Spring as a reference, or at least remembered that time Del Boy tried to bottle tap water. Now, under UK law, mineral water is a protected term. Mineral water must come from a certified underground spring. It must not be chemically treated in any way, and it's generally under heavy regulation. And back in 2004, the perception was that bottled water meant mineral water. Why else would you buy it? It's something you can't get at home. Over in America, though, the home of Coca-Cola, the perception of bottled water was that it was just that.
To be fair, yeah, I had no idea that there was really a difference. I honestly thought just all bottled water was literally just filtered water. I didn't realize it was like protected. Obviously, he's talking about the UK, not the US, which obviously in the US is not protected or anything. But I never really thought of the difference. So It's good that you guys have a difference though, honestly. And I do want to say, like, I don't know if he'll bring it up, but there's actually a lot of YouTube videos showing like people in restaurants, they'll literally just go outside to a garden hose and tap water, turn it on, and they come back into the restaurant and they're selling it for like $8 a glass of water in this, high-end fancy restaurant. And they usually get, like, the people don't even notice it, like they're tasting it, asking like what year and what spring it's from and just all this stupid stuff, and the people don't even know the difference. You would think you would taste the difference, but I guess not. If you're a good enough salesperson, you can sell anything.
It's water in a bottle. You were paying for the convenience and the taste, and it didn't really matter whether that came from the ground or from a water purification factory. To be fair, there are large parts of America where the tap water does not taste or smell good, and their federal standards aren't great, particularly compared to Europe. And anyone who has ever taken a vacation to Disney World, for example, will know that the tap water around Orlando can smell a little sulphury. But in the UK, the perception was different. You were buying mineral water because it was natural. It had been filtered through rocks for eons. It was classier and fancier and perhaps healthier than what came out of your tap. That's rubbish, of course. We have some of the safest tap water in the world, and did back then too, but advertising is powerful, and the idea was that bottled water...
Yeah, he is right. There's a lot of tap water. Like, I won't drink water. I won't drink tap water. I filter it. Now, in my area, it doesn't taste too bad, but it's very chlorinated, and you can taste that. And there's just so many chemicals in it, and that they use over here for the water treatment plants. But I actually have lived in an area where the water was on the wells that they use were on sulfur. And so all the water in the whole town smelled like rotten eggs, which really sucked because, even if you take a shower, you still came out stinking like eggs. I'm glad I no longer live there. But it was just really gross. But there was really nothing you could do about it, honestly. Like, that was the water. Yeah, you could drill a well. That was allowed in that area. And the wells that you drilled is where I lived with my parents. That's what they had. They had a well, and it wasn't sulfuric at all. It actually tasted amazing. It was really good water. It was just fresh and pure. But in the town, they, for some reason, hit a sulfur well, and it was disgusting.
Filtered and pure, straight from the earth. It was somehow better. Coca-Cola were trying to introduce an American-style filtered tap water to a British mineral water market. Now, they were not lying about their water. Their marketing didn't use the phrase tap water. They preferred purified water, but they weren't lying. It says on the back of the bottle, their process precisely delivers pure, still water. The public might have assumed it was mineral water, but Coca-Cola never said that. In fact, what they had done is spend a long time with focus groups, taste testing and refining the mineral balance and the flavour of the water, making a version of Dasani that was ideal for the British palate. Dasani launched with the first stage of what was going to be a £7 million advertising campaign on February 10th, 2004, and it went okay. For weeks, the British public either didn't notice or didn't care that it was tap water, the same way Americans don't seem to care. There were occasional rough patches for the launch, like shopkeepers in Buxton.
Bottled water for me is kind of weird because I know a lot of people, they'll buy bottled water not to drink out of the tap, but it's really the same thing, obviously, besides there is some more of a filtration system maybe. But I've never understood that because bottled water over here doesn't taste good. It's very plain. There's no real taste to it. Like, I think that's what the reverse osmosis does. It's just like there's no benefit to it. It's just liquid. Like, there's not the minerals and stuff that your body needs to take from the water. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird over here. Bottled water, I just have never understood it. Now we do have probably more higher end, and we do have mineral water. I think like Perrier. I think Perrier is like kind of like that. But I don't get why people over here will actually buy bottled water and that's all they drink, and they won't even drink out of a tap. I've never understood that, and I definitely don't do that. I only buy bottled water if I go somewhere and I've got my own water, or sometimes if I'm working, I run out of water, I'll go buy some bottled water, but that's about it.
Famous for its mineral water, complaining about being forced by their contracts with Coca-Cola to replace bottles of the local water in coolers with Dasani. Or the regulators launching an investigation into whether Coca-Cola should be using the word pure on the label. But on the whole, it went okay. A lot of articles written more recently claim that Coca-Cola's first blunder was copying an American Dasani slogan, "Can't live without spunk," which has a very different meaning in the UK. But I don't think that's true. The only actual evidence I could find of that slogan is a screenshot on one tech news website that liked innuendo. Looks like a web designer reused some American ad images in one part of a...
Okay, so what is he talking about? What is it? What does spunk mean over there? If you guys can let me know in the comments below, I'd really appreciate it because I have no idea.
flash-based website that almost no one saw. No other article from the time, that I can find anyway, mentions that slogan at all. You know, the advertising was put together by Coca-Cola's UK division. They're not stupid. In fact, the advertising team was probably breathing a sigh of relief. All things considered, the launch had been successful. And then it all went wrong. Very, very quickly. Exactly 3 weeks after launch, March the 2nd, most of the major British newspapers simultaneously put out big stories announcing that Dasani was bottled tap water. Most of them mentioned that episode of Only Fools and Horses, and all of them made a lot of noise implying that it was a rip-off, although perhaps they didn't put it in quite so few words. And back when a lot of people actually read physical newspapers, front page news saying that your product is a rip-off does make a big difference to sales. But
yeah,
why was it suddenly news everywhere at the same time after 3 silent weeks? The missing piece of the puzzle is one journalist called Graham Hiscott, who worked for the Press Association. And as he tells it, as part of a brilliant half-hour documentary made later that year, he happened to be flipping through an issue of The Grocer, an industry magazine, at work one day. And, you know, that's an event that the documentary asked him to recreate for some reason. Now, The Grocer is an ideal source for journalists looking for the next story about a product recall or a weird marketing strategy, and that issue of the magazine had a feature on bottled water, and there was just one line in one article describing Dasani as a mineral-enhanced treated tap water, which when written so clearly seemed odd. So Graham called Coca-Cola and they said, yes, yeah, Dasani is treated tap water from the main supply at their bottling plant right there in Sidcup, South London, 10 miles from Peckham, where the episode of Only Fools and Horses was set. A few hours after that phone call, there was an article.
That's just so interesting how that happens, things like that. The odds of that is just like they just were practically in the same area.
On the Press Association Newswire about where Dasani came from. Articles on the Newswire don't usually go straight to the public, they go to other journalists first who can use them or adapt them. And the editors at most of the newspapers correctly decided that yes, this was something their readers would be interested in. 6 months earlier, when Coca-Cola was setting out preparations for their Dasani.
That is crazy that sometimes all it takes is just one person in a position of power to like completely change something. Like he was just one journalist, just happened to come across it. Because of his position, he was able to make news about it, and then everyone else did, and it like obviously made a very big change. It's just crazy to think that one person had the power to do that. I mean, obviously that happens a lot of times. People are in position of powers, but it's nice to see when they use that for good.
The Grocer had run a small article about it, and there's a line in there that's prophetic. One senior buyer warned that some consumers may be put off by the water's lack of provenance. And now, Coke bottles tap water for 3,000% markup was on the front pages. But Coca-Cola and Dasani soldiered on. That didn't kill the brand. They put more marketing budget behind it. They gave away free bottles in supermarkets. Another article in The Grocer from back then quotes Coca-Cola's UK marketing director. There cannot be many people who do not know about Dasani now. I cannot imagine how much we would have had to spend to get that level of awareness. There is a theory that there's no such thing as bad publicity, after all. The final nail in the coffin was the contamination. They'd had a bad batch of calcium chloride delivered right here. It's one of the chemicals they use in the purification process, and tests revealed that their water contained above the legal limits of bromate, a cancer-causing chemical. There wasn't anywhere near enough in the water to do harm, but there was enough that it was outside the legal limits. So within 24 hours, every unsold bottle was recalled back here, and the shelves were empty. Just like Del Boy, not only had Coca-Cola sold tap water in a bottle, but they sold contaminated tap water in a bottle. Dasani never returned to shops, never launched in France or Germany like they were planning, and to this day, if you type Dasani into Google UK, you get results about the disaster. News reports from 2004 on the first page. Coca-Cola launched other water brands, of course, but as far as I can tell, they all look to be spring waters or mineral waters. They're not hooking up a purifier to the tap. Not over here. There are other folks selling purified tap water, of course, but that's usually the cheap option on the shelf. Not that it matters. It's all just water. And I reckon Coca-Cola could absolutely have made this work. Maybe they still could. There is a world in which one journalist didn't use the words tap water, or another journalist didn't happen to look at one particular article, and where the launch went just fine, and Britain got used to the fact that drinking bottled, purified tap water could be normal. After all, if it had been a popular brand, no one would want to admit their purchases might be questionable. It's a lot easier to just say, yeah, that's fine, of course, I know it's tap water, than go, hang on, I've been paying how much for what? And worry that you might have been ripped off. I don't think the Dasani disaster was inevitable, but it happened. And all that's left, 16 years later, is a few bottles like this.
Huh. Yeah, that was really, I don't know, that was really interesting. I had no idea that it was illegal over there. So not only is a lot of our American food illegal there, but a lot of, I guess probably most of our water would be too. It is something I'm actually a little passionate about, honestly, with water. I try not to drink out of plastic. I use like glass bottles and stuff. I filter my water. I mean, I don't think it's marked up as much, obviously, as over there. Like a bottle of water, you can buy like a 48 pack of 12-ounce bottles for about $5. So it's not too expensive. So they're not like marketing it up quite a bit. Now, if you go to like an airport or something now, a bottle of water will run about $4 or $5, which I think is ridiculous. But that is one thing, yeah, we just don't have, and I really don't know why, we just don't have the purification process. It seems like a lot of our fountains is just tap water. I know I was watching a documentary and they mentioned about France's water, about how it's just like this pure mineral water, free everywhere. You just go fill up a bottle. It's like pure. I don't know if you guys have that in the UK. I'd be interested to know. Do you guys have that same system? I know like France, they were saying like they even have like bubbly water or carbonated water that you can get on tap. Well, not really on tap, but like filtered. Like Europe and probably you guys in the UK, you guys have just filtered water, just readily available, clean filtered mineral water, just for anyone and everyone, it seems. And then over here, we just really have our taps. Like as an individual, we can buy our own filtration systems, which again is what I have, but it's not the same. And yeah, a lot of our water is just it's just treated with chemicals. So yeah, it's interesting to see or know that you guys have such a high standard, and it's really good. It's definitely something I feel like the U.S. is lacking in. One thing I did want to show though, because I don't know if a lot of people know this. So like a lot of people say that like America, or this is probably worldwide too, but a lot of people might think that there's a lot of options. But there's actually, if you can see this, and it's grainy even on my end, but there's only about 10 companies that own most of the food at least in the US. So like PepsiCo owns Quaker, so they own like all the oatmeal and the Pop-Tarts and all those brands. Coca-Cola owns a bunch of off brands of soda, Nos, Fanta, Orange Fanta. Nestle owns Gerber baby food. So a chocolate company is making the baby's food. But yeah, there's only a few companies that own most of the smaller companies. So it's just seeing these graphs are really interesting. But yeah, I definitely want to say I want to thank you for recommending this video to me. It was really interesting. I'm really glad that you guys have such a high standard of living over there, especially when it comes to food and water. I definitely think it's something that the U.S. needs to step up their game on. People are starting to like become self-conscious on their own. A lot of people are going more organic. Like someone like me, I try to drink out of glass, not plastic, filter my own water and stuff. But I definitely think it's something that not even personally the government needs to do. If the government just made stricter regulations, it would force the companies to adhere by them. And that's really what needs to be done, honestly, I think. So again, kudos to you guys. You guys win yet again on this one. So anyway, that being said, if you guys watched it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Feel free to recommend more content, and I will see you guys in the next one.